Okay, so now we're actually going to begin the procedure. Notice I'm going to come in with my handpiece of mirror. The system's coming in with the high-speed suction and also with the air water tip. And it's going to be keeping the mirror that I'm holding clean and dry. There's going to be a lot of water and spray that's going to be hitting that mirror. And for me to see what's going on, it's going to be important for her to keep the mirror clean. So again, it's going to take all four hands here. Me with the mirror and the handpiece, the assistant with the suction, and the air water. She's also using that big suction, which is a rigid tip, to kind of help keep the tongue from going up to this area we're working on. Again, we're working on an upper premolar, and so I'm being able to see what's going on in the mirror, and the assistant's going to help hold things out of the way and keep the mirror nice and dry and clean. Okay, now at this point I've switched to a different kind of handpiece. This one is a slow speed handpiece. We call it a contra angle, and it does not have any water that comes out. However, she's still going to be there with the air water to catch the little debris, or actually I shouldn't say catch it, it's actually blowing it off of the mirror, making sure I've got a good sight of what's going on. And at times she may go in with the high-speed suction to kind of catch any debris, and in a moment she'll be able to go in when I kind of done kind of cleaning things out and just kind of wash the field out and kind of catch all that debris. Okay, now I've kind of jumped ahead in the video and I've kind of got everything cleaned out. And whenever we do a crown prep, right before we do the build-up phase of it, we're going to go in and take another photograph. So very similar to what we did at the beginning. I'm going to grab the camera. I'm going to hold what we call the buckle mirror. It's kind of that bigger mirror. Assistant's going to go in with their mirror, retract, draw off the tooth. I put in my mirror, get the camera lined up, and the big mirror that I'm kind of bouncing that camera photo shot off of is being kept from fogging up with the assistant. Is going to be blowing air on that mirror, keeping it from, like I said, from getting fog on it. Okay, now we're ready to do the buildup. This tooth had a prep, and in order to kind of build the side walls with the buildup material, we're going to put in this orange and white matrix. It's a band or a little belt that goes around the tooth. I'm going to be tightening that into position, and the assistant, as you can see, is just kind of waiting, ready to hand me what I'm going to need next. Anticipating I'm going to need a mirror to check the seal, and then she also has the blue etch ready, and everything looks good. I go ahead and etch the tooth and get that phase of the bonding step taken care of. That has to sit there for a moment. If you notice in the background, she was taking an instrument, just cleaning it off, make sure there's no debris on there, because when we start packing the composite, those instruments need to be free of debris. Okay, now I'm going in and rinsing off the blue etch, and she's of course catching that and is going to be getting any excess that may slip down behind the tooth and going back into the back of the throat. And in order to then place any kind of composite or buildup, we have to get things dry. So I've switched out and put in a dry angle. Actually, I'm sorry, at this point, I decided it needed to be sealed better, so she handed me a blue little wedge, or we call it sometimes a blue point, just to seal it off a little bit better in this particular case. And once that is in place, then we're ready to start getting everything dry. So before we can start actually placing the composite, everything has to be dry. So I'm putting in a dry angle. If you notice, she's handed me a cotton forceps, and she has some cotton rolls just cradled in her hand, ready for me to take. I'm going to need, just always have 3 available. In that case, I just needed to take 1, and she just took the other 2 away. Again, I'm washing and drying, making sure everything looks great. Meanwhile, she's going to be taking this green brush, dipping it in the desensitizer. She's handing it to me, and notice I barely have to reach for it. It's right there. She's now taking and dropping the bonding agent back behind on that countertop, and she's going to get that brush ready. She's ready to pick up the little green brush. I should be done with it here in a moment. I dry it off. She switches over, hands me the purple brush. Everything looks good. I dab the purple brush. She knows what's coming next is the curing light. She has it set. Again, look at the position. Look at how she's ready to pick up the brush and immediately hand the curing light. It's a nice, smooth, easy transition. And I dry it off, grab the curing light, and in I go. Now she also knows the next step in the sequence is to actually place a composite. Since there is an interproximal wall on this one, she will hand me the flowable composite. I'll put a dab in there. She's going to then grab the hybrid or packable composite next. And again, look at this switch off from one to the other. It's just that smooth. It goes from one gun to the other gun. Knowing that the composite is in that hole, in that place I need to put the buildup in, she's going to hand me an instrument. It's a plugger. And I'm going to be packing that into place. And again, she has everything ready. Knowing the sequence of the steps is going to be important so you can hand the right instrument at the right time. Now, right there, she was getting ready to hand me the curing light, but I said during the procedure that instead of just a packer, I'm going to need the cord placer. So she handed me the cord placer, and now the curing light is ready to go. Let me just kind of finalize putting that in. Again, look at how it's ready to go. She grabs the instrument, and I pick up the curing light, ready to go. Notice that we're not fussing over where I hold the instrument. She's not going to be in the way. I'm going to be able to grab that curing light and just go right in. Same way with the composite. Just hands it right to me. I can go right in. Whenever doing a filling or a composite buildup, there's several increments that we place. So you'll see we put in the composite. I'm packing it in. In this case, she's going to hand me the cord placer. Sometimes we don't need the cord placer, but in this case I do. Pack that in a little bit more tighter around the walls. Curing light's ready. And nice smooth transition, and in I go. So it's going to be more of this back and forth until we finally have the buildup in place. Okay, so the buildup is in place. Now it's time to actually do the crown prep. This is going to be very similar to what we did at the beginning. It's me in with a handpiece, kind of trimming up around the edges, holding the cheek back with my mirror, and then she's in there with her suction, and she has the air water ready to go in and dry off the mirror when I need it. At that time, I was looking directly at the tooth. I didn't need the mirror. The mirror is actually just holding the cheek out of the way. Now, I'm actually looking into the mirror to do the prep, and this is where she comes in with the air water and keeps the mirror nice and clean and dry while I'm working. And so, like I said, it's just very similar to what we did when we were doing the the decay removal. Now we're just prepping the tooth for the crown. And just kind of see how to kind of work around. She knows where to put the air water tip, at least having it in the field or out of the field, depending upon if I'm looking in the mirror or not. Her suction, if you notice, is just kind of staying put. It's just not jumping from place to place. It's just kind of staying right there, catching the debris. Okay, now we've done the actual prep itself, and we're ready to place a thing called retraction cord. The assistant has now just clipped off a little piece of this thread. We use the 00 retraction cord. I've got everything kind of washed off, clean, dried, and now she comes in with the cotton forceps. She takes that little thread, makes a loop, puts it around the tooth, and then I go with my instrument and start tucking it underneath the gum line. And as I'm kind of working my way around that tooth, she'll bring in a scissors here in a moment, because we know we have to kind of clip the ends in order to get it kind of tucked into its final spot. Okay, so I have it tucked in place, and she's now handing me the scissors to get that last little bit clipped out of there. Of course, she's just kind of feeding it over my thumb and middle finger so I can get that clipped. And so clipped, she's going to catch the excess little snippet pieces that come off. And then it's going to wash and dry, make sure it's all clean. And then I take an instrument and kind of tuck in the last little bit of those threads. Again, she's got the cord placer right there ready to go, knowing that after she's clipped the excess, there is still a little bit that has to be tucked back into position. So as I'm doing that, we're kind of going to finalize this prep. And then once the cord is in place, we will either do an impression with PVS material, it's polyvinyl siloxane, that's that silicone impression material, or we're going to do a digital scan.